All right, we're out here this morning again, and I told you we're going to take this inner fender out so we can work on the steering, putting the steering box back on fairly easily. And as usual, little problem here. Got these bolts out here. Got the ones under here and the wheel opening ones, and of course the ones at the very bottom I had to grind them off because the clip nut broke. I had to grind them off. Got one more here. It come all the way out and then the clip nut broke, so we're gonna have to grind that one off too. So let's get that done. All right, so we ground the head off of that one, so it's good to go now. And it was pretty easy because we had some room there work because it came undone. But we're looking in here, it looks like some previous damage where somebody ran over something. So I don't know if we'll use these inner fenders or not. The one on the other side's rusted out down here under the battery box. The one on the right hand side always is, the passenger side, because the battery box is over top of it. So this lip right here always rusts out on those. So we'll see how it works, and might end up ordering a pair of these. They're kind of pricey, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so we got the inner fender out, and you can see some work that was done on this thing a long time ago. This wire right here comes from a resistor for the trailer brake controller, and they ran it through a hole on the inner fender and through a hole in the frame. And I don't know about you guys, but I love seeing this old stuff where somebody's done something, and that was probably done pretty close to the time this truck was new. But it's very interesting, and like I said, I like seeing that kind of stuff. So this inner fender is in really nice shape, with the exception of that bend right there. So we're going to see if we can straighten that thing out, and we'll probably use it. Now this hole was rusted out, and we might have caught a little bit of it when we grinded it off, but as you can see, it's already rusted slightly around that hole. But if we decide we can fix this, that little hole right there is not gonna make a whole bunch of difference. We'll work around that. So let's get the steering box back on so we can try to break this wheel loose. All right, so we got the steering box bolted back on. The steering column's hooked up. I'm not going to put the pinch bolt in there because this is just for a roller. If y'all missed it, the whole reason I'm putting this box back on is just to keep this frame as a roller, because we got to roll it around so we can get the cab off of it. So we're going to hook up the pitman arm here, and then we'll be able to jump to the other side and get try to get that wheel off. All right, so we got the pitman arm on. We're not going to tighten it all the way up and get that taper fit in there, because then we'll have to pull it back off later. So we'll just leave it loose like that. Now that'll hold everything tight enough to where we can try to break this wheel loose. So that's what we're going to work on now. If you guys saw my video yesterday, this wheel is rusted to the brake rotor. So we've soaked it down with PB Blast, and we'll see if we can knock this thing loose now. All right, so a few taps, and we got that bad boy off. So now we're gonna get this thing turned around, get the steering wheel turned where we can see the nuts on the ball joints, and we'll get that loose and get this spring out of here. All right, y'all hang on. So we put the other wheel on just in case something happens, it was fall off the jack or something. And we've got the upper ball joint taken loose, and we've got the A-frame sway bar mount loose. We'll get the sway bar mount from the frame loose, and the sway bar will be off of there, and then we'll work on getting this lower ball joint unhooked, and then we can go and get this spring out. And you notice we got the jack up underneath the control arm to hold it, and you'll have to undo the bottom shock mount to get enough of room to work the spring out of there. All right. So we got the sway bar off and got the lower shock mount undone. So we're gonna try something different on this side. We're gonna try to get the spring out without breaking the lower ball joint loose. We'll see if we can get that done. So we're gonna let off this jack and see what happens. All right, so that worked out pretty good. It broke the brake hose, which we weren't gonna reuse that anyway, and it was rotten. That's why it broke. But we've got the spring out. So that saved us a lot of time fussing with this cotter pin. It's hard to see the ends of the cotter pin a lot of times, and if they've been in here for 30 or 40 years, they fight you pretty bad. Well, actually 50 years. They fight you pretty bad, so we saved a little bit of time there and got this spring out. So we'll get this other spring back in there, so we'll have us a roller, and then we'll be ready to start cleaning these springs up and prepping them for paint. So let's get that done. What I like to do when I'm putting these back in, okay, there's a indention there in the lower control arm that spring loop hooks in, and then in the top the spring seats up here in the lower cross member. And what I like to do is go ahead and jack it up and put the shock bolt back in, and that way you can get on the outer, because I'm under between the spring pocket right now, and if you can get closer to the outside of the A-frame, you can get more leverage on it. So we're going to jack it up and put this bolt back in. All right, so we got this lower shock mount on, so we can move the position of our jack. Get it closer to the outside of the control arm and have some leverage with it. All right, so we got all this back together. So we got our truck back to being a roller. So we're gonna probably gonna set the whole thing down on the ground, get the jack stands out from underneath of it, and that way we'll be ready to move it when we're ready to move it. I might pull the center fender out because these fenders are coming off. So I don't know, we'll see. But first thing I'm gonna do is get these parts cleaned up so I can get them painted so they can get to drying. All right. So here's the parts we got to clean up. The big block springs, the steering box, and the front sway bar. And like everything else we've cleaned up, we're using a grinder with a cut brush on it. Really does wonders. So we'll get some of the stuff cleaned up and we'll show you as we go. Alright, so we've just spent a very little time with the wire brush, and you can see the spring is really coming nicely clean, and it will come really, I mean, it's a really good result, and it's not as messy as sandblasting. Same thing with the sway bar and the steering box. Boy, that thing is really coming out nice. So I'm going to work on all this and get this cleaned up, and then we'll get everything painted and get ready for assembly. But I'm going to be working on this for quite a while to get this cleaned up to my standard. So I'm probably going to end this video right here, and then the next video I'll show you everything cleaned up, and then we'll paint it. So I think that's where we are. Things are moving on fairly nicely after the little hold up yesterday with the wheel being stuck on the truck. But yeah, we've got what we need off of there right now. We'll do some more painting. Want to take the core support out of this thing. The inner fenders, Might see if we can patch this other inner fender up. Like I said, you see under the battery box always eats these fenders up. So we'll see what we can do about that, or maybe we'll have to buy some inner fenders. We'll just see how that works out. I definitely want to take this core support out and clean it up and paint it. So we're going to be working on all that, and like I said, get these parts painted. I've got my brake rotors and my brake drums and my calipers, so we'll get them painted up with some high temp paint. And so y'all just stay tuned, and we'll show you more in the next video.